Well, welcome back to another episode of Still Holding Hands.
We're still holding hands.
We're still holding hands.
Yeah, we are.
This is great. Hey, we got a great podcast for you today. But before we get into today's subject, we want to recap our last one, the last podcast that we did. And we talked about what planet are you from?
Right.
But we talked about the different things that can either build up or break down your relationship. You know, we realize that men and women are different, not just the obvious physical attributes that we're different, but we talked about how different that we are when it comes to the emotional side of our
Yes.
lives as well, and how women want to feel loved.
And men want to feel respected.
And so as men and women, it's when we come at it from those angles, it's like we're not right, we're not wrong, we're just different.
Yes, we are.
And, you know, your words are important that you say to each other. And we really hit on this idea that your response is your responsibility.
Big one. That's a big one.
Yeah. And if we allow selfishness to take the lead, that we talked about it this way, we can get caught up in the swirl in our lives. And we don't want that.
It's a bad place to be.
To happen with you. And so it was a great episode. We want to encourage you that if you haven't listened to it or watched it, you can go back and check that out. That was episode number 5. So today we're on episode number 6. But before we talk about that, we had a Still Holding Hands challenge from last week. And do you remember what it was?
Yes. So for 7 days, husbands, you were supposed to intentionally show your wife ways that you love her.
That's right.
And
wives, every day you were to intentionally show your husbands one act of respect every day. So how did it go? How did I do? How did I do?
I think you always do a great job. You don't even have to be challenged to do that. Yeah. And so I just want to thank you because you do always make me feel loved.
Well, I appreciate that.
How about me? How did I do?
You did a very good job. You know, there's multiple times where, you know, you thanked me or you encouraged me or, you know, told me, you know, something that I did.
That you're cute.
Yeah, you told me that I was cute.
That you're handsome.
Yeah, but you showed a lot of good respect. And one thing that I recognized too, that when we were out in public with other people, how you affirmed me, you know, to them. And so it was really good. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. I didn't even think about it. I didn't even have to be intentional.
There you go.
And I think, you know, that's really the goal for you that we just want to challenge you with. You know, we gave you some great tools and things to work on over the last 7 days. But the hope is that it becomes just a natural part of our lives, right? That we don't have to be thinking about, okay, what is it that I can do today? It's just going to come naturally.
You know, it's like we talked a little bit about that movie Fireproof, and that's where, you know, something like the Still Holding Hands challenge came out of it. It was called the Love Dare.
Yes.
And you know, and I think it's really good to be intentional about that, but not because you're in the doghouse and you got to win back your your wife. But like Chris said, that it becomes a natural part of what you do. You do a Love Dare because that's just who you are. You do a Still Holding Hands challenge because that's what the value of the relationship that you had. So we talked about this, and that is strong marriages. We do all this intentionality because strong marriages don't happen on accident. They happen on purpose.
That's right.
And so it's being very purposeful. All right. So let's transition. Let's talk about today.
I'm
excited about today.
It is a really great
All right.
one.
So we are on episode number 6. You know, thank you for hanging in with us. And we want to encourage you, you know, go back and watch or listen to the other ones. But today, this topic, you know, early on in our marriage, the church that we were going to, our pastor taught this really good series and subject on life's priorities.
Yeah.
And so we thought about this would be a fantastic topic to bring up to the Still Holding Hands listening group and you would share with you, you know, how we looked at these life priorities, how we structured them in our own lives. And our prayer and our hope tonight is that you get something out of this, and maybe hopefully it'll make you think about some different things that you have going on in your life, and we'll just give you our experiences and the things
Yeah.
that we do and have done over really the last 40 years in our relationship, and maybe it's some things that you can begin to do in your relationship as well.
Yeah, I think this message that our pastor taught on with life's priorities was probably 38 years
Oh
ago.
yeah, absolutely.
And,
Yeah.
that's always a cool thing, I think, as a pastor when you deliver something and you give something to your congregation that will still
Mm,
be impactful in their lives today. And so, Pastor Mike, we just want to thank you because all of these years later, we still remember what you taught us
yeah.
on priorities in our life.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Hmm.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
So, when we heard this topic, kids weren't really in the picture yet.
they were not in the
We
picture
we didn't
yet.
have any of our children yet,
Right.
and
And we
and
were newly
we
married.
were newly married,
Yep.
and at that time, I think I can honestly say that we had no idea what busy looked like.
We did not have any clue what busy looked like.
We thought at times, "Oh, we're so
Possibly,
busy,"
yeah.
but really not.
No,
We weren't busy.
no,
Were
we
you
weren't.
busy? No,
No,
we weren't.
no,
We weren't busy.
absolutely
We
not.
weren't busy. Our life, the work that we did, it had a completely different speed
Yes.
to it than really
Yeah.
what we
I think that
experience
was
even
back in the
today.
days when we worked 40 hours a week. Do you remember those days?
Yeah,
That seems
exactly.
like an eternity ago.
All right, so let's talk about the list of priorities that we're gonna go through, and if you were to say we're just gonna talk about 5.
Yes.
We're gonna talk about 5, and these are things that not only did we hear in this message, this sermon message at church, but through the course of time, we have read different books and
Mhm.
different things on this, and it
Yep.
seems like everybody that we have looked at and listened to, they all put these 5 things in this list of life's priorities.
Yes. So,
Here we go.
your personal relationship with God.
In
This
say
is in the order. This is in the
this is in
order,
the order.
yes, of priorities. So,
Right.
your personal relationship with God, your spouse, your children slash family, your church, and work. So, when what do you think it looked like for us early on, Tim, when it came to our marriage and our priorities that we had in place? Do you feel like our marriage was first place when we got married, or do you feel like our relationship with God was our first place? Kind of what do you feel like the lay of the land was?
I think that at that time when we first got married, I would probably say that looking at that list of 5, I probably would have put our marriage at number 1 in there. Looking at the list, I probably would have put, you know, I- and hear me when I say this, out of obligation, my relationship with God. I
Yeah.
probably would have put that
Yeah.
next.
It was different then
It
for
it was
sure.
it was very different,
Yeah.
and then I would say, if we're looking at this list, I probably would have put work, then I would have put church, and then I would have put kids and family at the bottom because
We didn't have any.
and it was just you and me, and
Right.
and our relationship, our marriage was one
Yeah.
on the list, so it
Yeah.
wouldn't fall into the family or kids list yet,
Yeah.
and so that's really kinda what I looked at. How about you? Is there anything different? Would you change that order?
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. I feel like especially in the beginning, I mean, even though we had been in a relationship for a number of years, it was different. I think our approach to our relationship definitely changed when we got married compared to when we were dating. And so, there was the excitement. It was definitely the honeymoon period where
Absolutely.
we were
Aren't we still in the honeymoon
we are
period?
definitely still
Okay,
in our
thank you.
honeymoon. But, it was kind of like our first place as a married couple,
Right.
as Mr. and Mrs. And, just again, even though we had dated for a number of years, it was different
Yeah.
as we got married. So I would agree. I feel like that was number one. I would say, probably for me, I really hadn't figured out the whole relationship with God thing in my life. So I think probably for me, church maybe would have been
Okay.
next.
Okay.
We found that church home that we wanted to get involved in. I think we told you that we were the only married couple in the singles
In the
group at
singles group.
church. We were also the youngest couple. And so that was super fun because we had developed these relationships with people in church. And, so it was just, it was new. It was super fun and it was exciting. My job probably came next, or, again, I think probably since church and my relationship with God and really not understanding what that looked like, that's kind of the order that I would say. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was different.
And we'll talk about, reordering of these purposes.
Right.
And, your priorities can change in different seasons of life,
Yeah.
but I'm going to make this statement right now and then we'll talk about it later. And that is that your relationship with the Lord, your relationship with God should be the number one
Yeah.
priority in your life
Right.
before anything else.
Yeah.
And we'll look at that here in a little bit. But during different seasons, you might have a more concentrated effort on one
Yes.
of these other priorities, but yet it might not be number two, but
Hmm.
you still have to, and we'll talk about that
Hmm.
too as we get going. So different stages of life, your priorities might have some other emphasis on it, but once again, these are what we have found
Right.
as we have grown in our relationship with each other, as we've grown in our relationship with the Lord, to prioritize that list, this way. And that's what we've done. And we want to encourage you to do the same thing, to look at your relationship with your spouse, to look at, your relationship, with the Lord, your relationship with church and work and kids and things like that. And really put it in a prioritization list and go after it.
Yeah. It'll be worth it. The payoff will be great
Absolutely.
when you keep things in the right order. So, thinking about when we got married compared to now, I mean, we're in a different world, right? We've got internet,
Oh,
we've
yeah.
have our phones that have
Everything,
everything you could ever want,
everything.
from music to encyclopedia to,
It
who reads a newspaper anymore?
well,
Because now,
it is a communication device,
yeah,
whether by voice or by words, by
yeah,
text, by email,
yes,
everything. Oh, you can watch TV, you can watch a movie,
you can do
you
everything.
can do just about everything.
So, we know that there are things that are always going to be clamoring for our attention. And whether it's that phone or it's our job, children, different activities that you're in, there is always something that clamors for your attention and kind of,
No,
yes,
no, go ahead.
no, you go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say, with that, do you remember when it used to be that you would leave work and then you
Yeah.
would come home and then you wouldn't go back to work until the next day?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. And that's really, I think we'll talk more
Yeah,
about that in depth, but that is really, I feel like that can really be a problem for so many people
yeah,
today if we don't set those boundaries
right.
and have those priorities in order. So yeah, for sure. Church can also clamor for our attention, and even something really good like serving, volunteering, being involved in ministry, anything that you're doing, even if it's good, if it's out of order,
Mm.
it can be detrimental.
Let me tell you a story. Let me share a story with you. So, as we've shared before, but Chris and we were a part of a church, this church that we're talking about in Iowa,
Yeah.
that we got a great foundation in. And we were there for a number of years, but then we left and I went to Bible college in Oklahoma. You were, of course, with me.
Mm.
We
I
had
did go with, yes.
we just had our second son right before we moved down there, so we had Joshua and we had Caleb with us, and we moved to Oklahoma. The program that I went through was a 2-year program, and then after that, graduation in May. But by the fall, I had an opportunity through interview, and we went up
The Inquisition.
and talked with this church in Michigan. We went and took that we were invited to become the next senior pastor of that church.
Right.
And so we did that. And that was in the fall, closer, was it in October or
It
was
was
it in
Yeah, it was October.
October of 1993? And as part of, being in the senior leadership, being the pastor of the church, you know, uh, I was over the board of the church, and we would have, it was a set schedule that the
Hmm.
church board had, but we would have a board meeting the second Tuesday of every month. So we got to now the next calendar year is 1994, and we got through the year, and then we came to the month of July. What happens in the month of July, Chris?
Well, it is a very special day in the Peterson house. July 11th just happens to be our wedding
Our wedding.
anniversary. Oh,
I thought you were going to say the 4th of July happens.
no, 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 no. It does. The 4th of July happens every year, but July 11th.
So July 11th in 1994 fell on the day of our board meeting,
Oh,
and um, being the new pastor,
yeah.
been there for, what at this point, what would that be? Probably 7, 8, oh, let's see, 7, probably 9 months, 10 months at the most, that I didn't want to cancel the board meeting, even though it was our anniversary. So went ahead with the board meeting. And of course, you being the gracious person that you are, you said, "Oh, it's okay."
I think we had Taco Bell for dinner that
Yeah.
night.
Did we really?
I think so.
Guys, I want
Why
to tell you
Taco
right now.
Bell?
I wanna
Ugh,
tell you right now, that is a
that's
bad
a bad
move.
move.
That's a bad move.
I mean,
Don't I mean, if it can be unavoidable that you have to be out of town or you have to be at a meeting, okay, but don't do Taco Bell.
as we call it, Taco Hell.
Don't so, now I tell you this story because we've been talking about,
Mm,
that even something like ministry or serving, and
something
that's
good.
good, but I missed it. I missed it so bad, and I have few regrets in my life, and this is one of them. I
Hey,
do, because my relationship with you is so far more important than a board meeting, so far more important
yeah,
than anything else, that I am not going to let anything come between the celebration of that day. Now I know we can celebrate any day that we want, but that was a special day, and I should have been a lot better. That was our 8th anniversary.
right.
We should have been a lot better about protecting
Yeah,
our anniversary. So
yeah,
thank you for your forgiveness. But we're just saying, hey, even in something that looks really good, something that's it's a calling. It's what you love to do. If you find yourself in that situation and you're the leader, you can change the date.
you can absolutely change the
You can
date.
change the date. I give you permission. Go ahead and do
I
that.
do too.
So there can be some different tensions that come in. And if you're not careful, if your priorities, we have found that when our priorities become or start to get out of line, that's where sometimes this, what we talked about, this swirl or even the slow fade, the drift can begin to
Right.
happen in your relationship, because you're so tied, to whatever it is that you're doing that is not the number one priority, or even, not in the right order priority. So just be conscious of that. Don't let that happen. As a caveat, once again, we realize that there are different seasons and times in your life
Right.
where you have to focus on. We'll use the little children as an example. They need you,
Yeah.
right? They need you, but there's still ways, and we can talk about that, but there's still ways that you can still focus on your children and still focus on your spouse
Yes,
at the
absolutely.
same time.
Yeah.
So if you don't intentionally set your priorities, life will set them for you.
That is such a good statement. It is so true. If you aren't the one that is, it's kind of like your response is your
That's right.
responsibility,
That's
even
right.
in that,
Yeah.
right? That you, because we could be busy every night of the week. We could have responsibilities and things that are constantly pulling us and sucking us in. And, in the long run, it's not worth it.
No.
It is never worth your relationship if you put something
Right.
else in front of it.
So if you don't intentionally set your priorities, life will set them for you, and usually it's your marriage that pays the
Yeah.
price. Listen to this Bible verse out of 1 Corinthians chapter 14 verse 33. This is out of the New Living Translation. It says, "For God is not a God of disorder,
Mm.
but of peace." So it's not this disorder of priorities. He is the God of order of your priorities.
So when your priorities are out of order, that's really when the pressure can set in.
Absolutely.
There's conflict, there's stress. But when you have priorities in order, just like it
Mm,
says here, that there's going to be peace.
Peace.
And so we just want to encourage you to make sure you keep those things in check. And it's not just what's in your
That's
life,
right.
it's
That's right.
what is first in your life.
Yeah.
So what's first? What's the most important thing in your life?
So let's go through, we read through the list, but let's take them one at a time,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
let's talk more specifically about them. And that very first priority is your personal relationship with God.
Yeah, that is truly the number one, and when you have that in place, it's going to positively impact every one of your
Yeah.
relationships that you have with your spouse, if you have children, with them, with your extended family, your coworkers. I mean, truly, if you are spending time in the word and in prayer with God, it will impact and have a ripple effect across your life.
So this should always be number 1.
Yeah, and this is not the same thing as attending church,
Right.
right? Just you going to church on a Sunday morning or possibly a Wednesday night, that is not a
That's
replacement
it. That's it.
for
Yeah.
your relationship with God and for your time with the Lord.
Right. So this is your personal time of reading the Bible, personal
Mhm,
time of prayer,
mhm,
personal time of journaling.
mhm.
The different things that you can do, we encourage you to spend time together in this action or act, and like we've mentioned before, but I'm going to mention it again, and that is doing a couples devotional together.
Yeah,
Something that we do on the daily.
I love it. It is I think it is just enriched our relationship and really deepened and strengthened it. So I also give 2 thumbs up on that.
Yeah, and it goes back to something that we talked about, on a previous episode
Mm.
about the Joneses.
About the 2 sets of Joneses, right. So, when you're investing that time and your relationship with your Lord, I wanna tell you, I don't wanna be first in your life.
Right,
I want you to be putting the Lord first in
right.
your life because I know that it's gonna benefit me. So, going back to the song, The Two Sets of Joneses, if you're developing that personal time, that relationship, you're talking to your father, you're listening to your father, then you're gonna be building a really strong and solid foundation in your life individually and your life as a couple.
And because of doing that, you are gonna be a better mate to your spouse. You're gonna be a better, if you have children, you're gonna be a better father or a better
Mhm,
mother to
mhm.
your kids because you're putting that first
Yeah,
in your life. It's gonna help you continue to build that strong foundation, individually and as a
mhm.
couple. We found a song, that I thought
That's
was really
right.
cool, and we'll drop it into the notes. We'll put the
Yeah.
link in there like we've done some of these others, and it was one that I had never heard before.
Yeah, it was a good one. So it's called First Things First by Consumed by Fire. So check it out. It really gives you a good perspective of what really should be first in your life.
Alright, so number 1 is.
Your personal relationship with God,
Alright, and so we feel that the number 2 priority in this list of 5 priorities
your
is your
spouse.
spouse.
Your spouse should be number 2 in your life.
Yeah.
So after the Lord,
Yep.
your spouse comes next. Your marriage should be a high priority. Now, listen, we've had children, and we know that,
Mhm.
especially as you have a newborn,
That's
that baby needs you have to do everything for it, right? You're feeding, you're bathing, you're changing, you're doing everything. So we know that there are seasons where it might feel like it's a tie ball game
yeah.
between your infant, your newborn, and your spouse. But I just want to encourage you, new moms, still make sure that your marriage is a priority. I know you're tired. I know that you're doing a lot to care for your sweet little baby, but make sure that you don't lose sight of your marriage.
Chris, talk about what we did just as an example, just to let people know or give them an option or something to do. How did we do it? How did we do it? Because we had our first child, and then 2.5 years later we had our second child,
Yep.
and then 4 years later we had our third child.
Right.
Right? So within that span of
7
almost
years.
7
Mhm.
years,
Right.
right? We had 3 kids.
Right.
But how did we maintain our relationship? How did we keep our marriage number
Mhm.
2 on the priority list?
Well, 8 o'clock was bedtime, so I would
That was
say
pretty rough. Sorry, Josh, Caleb, Luke, but it was for your own good,
yeah.
especially during the summer, and we lived in Michigan,
Yeah, and it was
and
it
it
was light until, like,
like, almost
10.
10 o'clock.
Yeah, and, I remember being a kid and getting put to bed on a summer night, and it was light out, laying there thinking, "This is horrible, I hate it, it's daytime, I should be up." So but you know what? That was a great time of the day, 8 o'clock. I looked forward to it because it was time for us. So I would say I mean, we weren't like letter to the law
Yeah,
schedule people, but we had a schedule. And, so I would say that's one of the things. Our kids didn't sleep with us. I remember there might have been a couple storms that woke them up. Hardly ever. Thank you, boys, because you slept through storms.
you slept through your mother vacuuming in your room with the lights
That's
on.
true. It's true. I would open the door. I would vacuum. I would move things. I'd vacuum in the room. So yeah, it was great, and they slept. So anyways, schedule, bedtime, our kids didn't sleep with us, and we just really made it a
That's right.
priority. As the kids got older, we could barely pay attention, let alone pay a
Yeah,
babysitter, so thank you, oldest child, for babysitting sometimes, but, you know, when we didn't have money and we couldn't go out to eat, we just sometimes went and walked around the mall, so it's really do what you can,
that's right.
right? If you can't afford to go out to dinner, if you have relatives, if you have family that can watch your kids for you, just to get out for a couple of hours, I just want to encourage you to do that because spending time with your spouse it's really, really
We
important.
we were we were just talking earlier today
Mhm.
to a sibling, one of my sisters, and she was telling us about there was a season in their life that they lived in a community within like a 3 block community. There was a lot of people with with little children, and they ended up doing like a babysitting co-op
Yeah.
to each other. So just get creative
Get
on
creative.
some of these things,
Yeah.
and that'll be a real blessing to you because here's what's going to end up happening. And this is what I think, and that is the greatest gift that you can give your kids is to
Mhm.
have a healthy and
Yeah.
strong relationship with your spouse.
Absolutely. Because kids know, they're pretty smart. And if mom and dad don't enjoy being together, your kids are going to know
Right.
that. And so what a incredible gift to give your children by letting them see a healthy and a strong and a loving
Yeah,
marriage
that's right.
between their mom and
That's right.
dad.
All right. So, life priority number one is your relationship with the
Yep.
Lord. Number two is the relationship that you have with your spouse, and work on that. Now, if you have children, that falls into number three,
Right.
right? If you don't have children, I mean, there's that part of that is your family to work on that, but always, keep those priorities in line. So, number three is your children. And as we noted before, there are going to be seasons when
Yeah.
your focus and your attention is different on your kids than it is at other times as well. You're not 100% responsible for all of life's activities of daily living for
Mhm.
your kids as they get older. Now we know that when they're newborn, Chris, you mentioned that
Yeah.
earlier.
You are responsible for all of
Yeah.
life's daily activities of living.
Oh, and I should say, yeah, at that time, you are 100%
You are
responsible. You
100%.
are
Yeah.
100%
Yeah.
responsible for their
Yeah.
daily
Yeah. Be a good parent.
yeah, for their activities of daily living.
Yeah.
But as they get older, it is really good when they become a little bit more independent.
Yeah.
And you just keep teaching those things
Right.
over the time as they're growing. But your children and your family, they are a big part of your life, and they should follow your relationship with the Lord, your relationship with your spouse, and then with your kids.
Yeah, I have a challenge
Okay.
for you moms. Your children are a blessing and they are a gift from God from you or to you. But I want to just challenge you and caution you moms that you don't put your children in that place, in that elevated place of priority for the long term, right? Where
Mhm.
it's almost like you're married to your kids. Don't have that out of order. Your children are a blessing and you should definitely be caring for them and loving them and raising them, but don't let them slip in and take second place over your
Right.
spouse
Right.
because you don't want to see your kids graduate from high school and they move out of the house and now your bestie has left, or that person, those persons that you focus all of your attention and your energy on. Make sure that you're investing and you're spending a time with your spouse.
Because, when kids become your top priority all the time, your marriage is gonna have a
Yeah,
tendency to
yeah,
weaken.
yeah.
And so we just need to be careful with that.
Yeah. So we just want to challenge you, when you're raising your kids from a strong marriage, it will pay off. Just make sure that the time that you're spending with your kids is invested and it's healthy and it's strong, but make sure that your spouse is even stronger.
Yeah. Talk about healthy boundaries. What are some healthy boundaries that you can do to help with this process?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned it before. We got some really great advice
Fantastic
from
advice.
people that were 2, 3-star parents that had children that were older than us. And so kind of having that scheduled bedtime, that was
Mhm.
one of the
Yeah.
things. Once again, we didn't have our kids sleep with us in our bed.
Yeah.
If they ever came into our bedroom, we would comfort them if they were afraid of anything or crying about anything, but then we would take them back into their bedroom and put them back in their bed, and we'd pray for them, and we would let them go back to sleep in their bed. So our bed was sacred. And that should be a place that is for you and your spouse, not for you, your spouse, and all of your
And
kids.
once again, this is something that we did, and we
Yeah.
did this because we got some great advice from
Hmm.
people that have been through that path before us. And we just want to encourage you, you need to do what's best for you and
Right.
your family, but there are some things that we would just encourage you to look at, to possibly do as well.
Yeah, most definitely. So these last two, they really can be interchangeable
Yep,
when it comes to the priorities that you have. So once again, first priority is your personal relationship with God. Number 2 is your spouse. Number 3 is your children and your family. Number 4 is your church. So let's talk about your church. Your church is essential, but once again, it is not meant to replace your personal
that's right.
walk with God. It's like when you're at home and you're having that time with the Lord, that's your big meal that you got. Your mashed potatoes, your gravy, your meat, your veggies, your rolls. And when you go to church, that's kind of like the protein bar or your protein shake. It's something that supplements
That's
and
right.
just helps you to grow
Yeah.
healthy as an individual. We were involved in our church, so I want to encourage you to, number 1, be
Yeah.
faithful, attend church regularly, especially as you have children. That really will speak a lot to your children and show what a priority that it is. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, because, God established the family first
Mhm,
before he established the church. Don't let your house suffer as you serve
mhm.
in God's house.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So, look at it that way. But church is it is so important. It's essential. It's not meant to replace your personal walk with God,
Mhm.
but it's there. But one thing that you and I did
And
together
still do.
and still do, and
Mhm.
that is that we serve together.
Right.
We've been doing this, boy, since we started going to church
Since we said,
together.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we serve together. In Psalm 92, verses 13 and 14 out of the New King James Version, it says this. It says, "Those who are planted in the house of the Lord shall flourish in the courts of our God.
Mm,
They shall still bear fruit in old age, and they
mhm.
shall be fresh and flourishing." They were talking about us. We're not old yet,
No, we are
but
definitely not old.
but we're older.
Yep.
But we're
I
older.
love that.
Yeah.
That you're still gonna bear fruit
Yeah.
no matter how old you are. So you're important in the church, whether you are young and newly married in your 20s or whether you're a little more seasoned like us at age 60.
Yeah, absolutely. So your personal relationship with the Lord, number one.
Yep,
Your spouse, your marriage
right.
is number two. Your kids and family are number three. Church is number four. I would just say once again, I'm going to emphasize find a good
Find a
church
good church, a
and
life-giving
get
church.
planted and stay there.
Yes.
And if the pastor says something and it hits you wrong and you feel offended, a wise pastor had made this statement, get over yourself.
Check your heart.
Check your heart.
I mean, truly check your heart. Why are you offended? Is it
Right.
because he or she stepped on your
Yeah,
toes? Because
exactly.
no, you know that you need to make that change or
Right,
that adjustment in your
right.
life. I think
That
that's why a lot of people leave churches is because the word that they're hearing is making them feel uncomfortable because they know they need to make a
they need
change
to make a
and they're not
change.
willing to
All
do
right,
it.
so the fifth life priority as we
Mm.
went through the list, you can guess it's the last one here, and that's work.
Yeah,
The landscape of work has really changed. We were talking about this over the last 10 or 15 years.
yeah,
And but especially, I really believe, especially in the last 6 or 7 years, I go back to 2020
yeah,
when life and when work life and life really,
yeah.
had an impact, and there was a big change in there.
Mhm.
Work is important, and because we need to earn an income. We need to earn an
'Cause we
income.
like to
Yeah,
eat,
we like to
we
eat.
like to wear
We like to
clothes,
have a roof over our
we like to
house.
have a roof, we like
I
air
mean, a roof over our heads, I
conditioning,
should
and we
say.
like heat, we like all of those things.
But work is a tool.
Yeah,
It's important, but
yeah,
look at it, it's a tool. And one thing I wanna say, and then I want you to comment on this,
yeah,
but that is, I want you to really think hard about this. Is work your identity? Because
mm,
I think if you wanna know what I think that your work, what you do should not be your identity.
yeah. Yeah, work is not who you are, it is what you
That's
do.
right.
And man, I know some people and work is truly their identity. And I know that they are working all hours of the day and night and they're married and they're working all hours throughout the weekend
On vacation,
and on vacation. And we should work hard and
absolutely.
be a good steward as we are on the job when we are during our work day.
Be a great worker for your company.
Yes, but we also need to recharge our
Yeah,
batteries. So don't fall into the trap that work is your life because I'm telling you, my company is not going to be sitting with me in my last stages
that's
of
right.
life. They're not going to be holding my hand.
Right.
I'm just a number. You're just a number and you can be easily replaced tomorrow. So just don't fall into that trap. Again, it's what you do,
Right.
but it is not who you
What
are.
what would you say are some of the dangers that would come at a person who really has their identity or identifying with their job?
Overworking.
Yeah,
Once again, they are on 24 hours a day, and then especially if you're getting your work email coming to you on your phone, once again, I know people who are at their kids' activities and they're responding to me, because they're on their work phone. So, it's overworking. It's allowing the stress of your job to come in. It's bringing your work home with you even if you work from home. It's letting that come into your life. Tell me
yeah.
about
Mm.
your job and what you started to do.
So I had this job for a number of years, and where we live, it was about a 30-minute drive for
Mhm.
me to get to this job in the morning, and it was a little bit longer in the evening just because of traffic.
Right.
And I was having some challenges
Yeah.
at work. Things were going. It was tough. I had a pretty visible position,
Mhm.
and I would get home, and I would come in, and you and I would have a
Yeah.
conversation. It's
I
like I
could
just
see it all over you.
yeah, it's like I couldn't shake it.
Yeah.
And you gave me a fantastic piece of wisdom. And you asked me, you said, where on your ride home is about halfway between when you leave the parking garage at work, when you pull into the garage here at our house? You said, where's about halfway? So I just kind of mentally did this math in my head, and I knew about right where it was at. And you asked me, you said, is there like a tree, or is there anything on your drive that you can see that's like that? And I said, yeah, I know right where there's a tree. And you told me, you said, you have from the time that you leave work until you get to that tree that you can think about, stew about,
Mhm.
whatever about what's going on that day. But when you get to the tree, you have to hang it up
Mm.
almost like Mr. Rogers hanging up
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
his outside jacket and
Yeah,
puts on his
yeah.
sweater. He said, I have to hang it up." And then for the rest of the ride home, I could not think about it.
Mm,
So that way that when I hit the door to walk into our house, that my whole attitude has changed.
yeah.
And the next day, same thing. I do not think about it until I hit the tree and I
Mm,
take it back. And then I
mm.
start thinking about that day and what I need to accomplish. That was such great advice.
Thanks.
And
I need to do that at the door jam going from my office since my drive is like 20 steps into my office.
so you don't have very much
I
time
don't
to
have a
think
drive
about
time
it.
anymore.
No drive
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's really good if you can, do that and really set healthy boundaries, in that. And other things that you can do to set healthy boundaries is, turn your phone off. I realize sometimes you can't because
Yeah.
you might be on call or, like in the position that I have right now, there is a part of me that I have to be available if something's happening at the church. The alarm's going off, and there's a like a phone tree, and I'm
Mhm.
on that tree, and I can't just completely check out.
Right.
So I have to be available. But I do things to, I don't really look at my work email or even answer my email on designated days off,
Yep.
because it can wait till the next day.
That's right.
And if it's really important, they'll get a hold of me
Agreed.
with
Agreed.
that. So turn your phones off, establish those work hours,
Yep.
that you have. I know that there's been some times where I've had to ask you, how late are you working? And then you tell me and you ask me, said, hold me accountable to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we do that. And, and we're not talking about, don't, or I'd say, don't talk about work
All
all
the
the time.
time. It's
You
exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I know, we enjoy going for a walk together. We take Remy for a
And
walk.
who's Remy?
Remy is our dog, Remington, and
He's
he's
he's right
he's
here below
jonesing
me.
right now because he's ready for his nightly treat. But when we go on our walks, it's normally after work. And man,
Mhm.
there are some times that I do need to just talk it out
Right.
and express, the things that I went through during the day. But then we also get to the point that it's like, okay, I'm done. We're not going to continue on this whole entire walk talking about my job and the challenges
Right.
and the frustrations about it.
Right.
So just set healthy
Yeah.
boundaries. Don't let work consume your life and get moved up in the priority chain.
Yeah. If success at work costs you your marriage,
It is not worth
it's not
it.
worth it. It's not worth it.
No.
I know that this is probably the longest podcast of all of them that we've done. But give me a couple more minutes. We're about ready to go into the Still Holding Hands challenge, but I want to talk about just real quick. I want to tell you a story about something that years ago I had this opportunity. I was at an industry conference, and at this industry conference, there was the main sponsors of the conference had in the vendor area, they had this massive vendor booth, which like all of the vendor booths operated around or revolved around. And sitting in this booth at the vendor booth was this guy who was he was a Hall of Famer. He was top of his field.
Mm,
He had written books. He was the guy who was always being talked about this was like a annual conference that we
mm.
would go to. And I look over there and I'm like, this guy's sitting right there and nobody's talking to him. So I'm like, I'm gonna take the opportunity and I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna start talking to him. And so I walk up to him and I introduce myself. He looks at my name tag and we just start talking. And I said, I have a question for you. He had just written this book and it was a really good industry book, but it had a lot of life lessons in it as well. And I said to him, I said, it's obvious. I read your book and it's obvious that you are very successful in business.
Mhm.
I said, but it's also based off of your book, it's obvious that you've been a very successful family man as well. And so I said, so how do you balance it? And he told me this. He said, Tim, he said, if you remember in my book, I don't talk about living a balanced life.
Yeah.
He said, I talk about living a blended life. And from that time on, and that was probably And well, it's been at least probably close to 12, 15, 13, 14, maybe even 15 years ago that
Mm.
this guy that I heard this, and I have not forgot it.
Yeah.
And I try to live this way. But he said, live a blended life. And and he knew that I was, I read the book, but evidently I didn't read it as intently as I should. But he goes, I'm still the same man at work as I am the family man at home.
Mm.
He said, but at work, my work takes precedence.
Yeah.
Now, if there's an emergency at home, that's different.
Right.
But when I'm at work, I focus on work.
Right.
He goes, and vice versa. When I'm at home, I'm still the business owner.
Right.
But when I'm at home, home takes precedence.
Yeah.
And so what I took from that
That's
is
great
you need to
advice.
be present where you're at. So
That
if
is
you're at
nice.
work, be present at work, give it everything that you have.
Right.
When you're at home, be present at home
Yeah.
and give everything that you have.
That is a great word, Tim.
Yeah. So ask yourself, what's getting most of my attention? What is taking most of my energy?
Yeah.
What does my calendar say about what's important to me?
Yeah.
Look at your calendar. It'll tell you really what's important. Is your life are your priorities out of line or out of order? We'll put it that way. Are they out of order?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really love the Lord, but I have this job that I have to focus on. Well, readjust it. Put the Lord first, and you'll see that everything else. I honestly believe if you focus on that as number
Yeah.
one, all of the others will begin to fall into place. There's a verse of scripture. I'm just thinking about it right now from Matthew's Gospel, the 6th chapter, the 33rd
Mhm.
verse,
Yeah.
and it says, "Seek first
Yeah.
the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto
Yeah.
you." But it's the priority of put first things first.
That's right.
So you put that first and then the others. We've given you a list, but once again, your relationship with the Lord is number one, and then you can let the others fall where they may.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
keep your marriage if you're married, which you are because you wouldn't probably be watching this, but keep your marriage,
That's right.
number two. So, sometimes you have to say no to good things so that you can protect the great
Yeah.
things.
And you are a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, so let's talk about our Still Holding Hands challenge that we have for you.
I hope you got a lot out of this, out of this podcast
Most
today.
definitely.
Yeah, I keep saying session. This isn't first of all, the disclaimer,
We are not therapists,
we're not
nor do we
therapists,
pretend to
nor do
play
we
one on
yeah,
TV
we're not. We're just two people who have been married almost 40 years who have know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or
because
two.
we
We've
have seen a
walked
thing or two.
through a thing or two
Yes, we
as
have.
well, but we just want to encourage you. And I think that this has been a great podcast about, just with our life and everything. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Tell me, Chris,
Let's talk about
what
our
is our
Still
still
Holding Hands challenge.
Thank you.
All right. So do a 30-minute priority checkup or reset.
Yep.
Have an honest conversation with each other and ask each other. So I would say, Tim, where do you think you fall in my priorities? And then I would say, Tim, where do you want to be in my priorities? And then he would ask me the same
The same
question. So
question.
have that open, honest conversation. And then individually rank for yourself these 5 priorities of faith, marriage, kids and family, church, and work. Then compare your lists with each other and find out where are you aligned and where are you off. And then the action for this Still Holding Hands challenge is to make one adjustment.
Just one.
Just make one adjustment in your priorities this week and attend church together. Say no to an extra commitment this week. Log off early this week and just take time to really just do an evaluation on where you are and where you want to be.
So I think the biggest thing with this is having that intentionality of that time that you can spend together. Now there were kind of multiple steps to this challenge, but and with all that, we will have all of this information in the show notes.
Yep.
So you don't have to keep rewinding this and writing it down and everything. But be intentional about it and have that conversation with your spouse about your priorities. We talk about it and I feel like we're pretty aligned
Yep.
in what we talked
I
about,
agree.
as well. But we still took the time to do it.
Right.
to talk about it. And you know what? We'll even do it this week.
Yes, we will,
We'll even
because
do
we are challenged as well.
That's right. So do that. So as we wrap up,
All right. So we just want to remind you that strong marriages, they are not built on accident. They are built on purpose
yeah,
when you make it a priority.
yeah.
And when you get this right, you won't just stay married, but you will stay connected to one another.
Hey, read that Bible verse that I just quoted just a little bit ago. Read that
That's right.
Matthew 6:33 again, because I think it fits really well right
Matthew
here.
6:33 from the New Living Translation. Seek the kingdom of God above all else and live righteously, and he will give you everything you need. That is a great encouragement.
Yeah, that is. That is. So life's priorities.
That's right.
It'll help you once again, it'll help you with your strong marriage. What do we have next
Oh,
on
it's
next
going to
week
be
on
a juicy one.
all right.
Next time on Still Holding Hands, we are going to talk about
Ooh,
finances, and it will be titled Marriage, Money, and Misunderstanding. So I can guarantee you won't want to miss it.
right.
So thank you. We are so happy that you joined us today. We're sorry we went a bit long, but you know what? Priorities are a priority. And sometimes it takes a little bit more
Yeah,
to kind of talk through them.
there you
So
go.
we just want to, again, thank you for joining us today. If you like us, make sure that you subscribe and you tell a friend. Email us at timandchrispeterson@gmail.com. And wherever life takes you,